one last very important topic.
So, look, I said we want to lighten it up a little bit, and this is lighter than nuclear annihilation, but this still isn't that light.
Gruesome.
Because it's actually super disturbing. So I'm reading from BuzzFeed News here. They say support and concern for Pete Davidson is at an all-time high after Kanye West's new music video showed him being kidnapped, decapitated, and buried alive by the rapper. And then the subheadline is Ye's new music video, which boasts the message, everyone lived happily ever after except Skeet. Skeet is what he calls Pete. I hate to laugh at that in a moment like this because this is totally unfair to Pete Davidson, but Skeet is hilarious. Anyway, was released just hours after Kim Kardashian was declared legally single in court. So as soon as their divorce was finalized and it was official, he releases this, which is like sort of like an overt threat to Pete Davidson, who's now dating Kim Kardashian, of course.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Well, and I'm sure that this was like, I'm sure there was massive settlement of resources and kid custody and all this entailed in this court settlement. So I also don't think from a legal perspective that it's an accident that this like very disturbing, threatening video comes out after that's kind of all done and settled. But yeah, I mean, we've been following this very much more closely than we normally follow pop culture stuff. Been watching the Kanye documentary as well, which is interesting. I think for me, it's partly because I was like a, Kanye fan at the very beginning. And now, I mean, I don't really connect with or like his music at all. And then you watch this behavior that just is completely bizarre and spiraling and has now moved into the realm of just being like overtly disturbing and threatening. It's hard to watch.
Start at the beginning, though. So we only seen 2 of the 3 episodes that are out as of the recording of this, what we're doing right now. What is your take on Kanye, young Kanye, and on the come up? Like, what do you make of him as a person? Do you like him? What are the characteristics that shine through?
The thing that comes across in the documentary is that, he's an artist who had a very particular vision that was really not represented in the rap industry at the time.
And with Rockefeller Records and Jay-Z and Dame Dash, and it was all more were like gangstery.
Yeah.
Not full gangster, but all money.
Yeah.
Women.
Exactly. And he had a very different conception of speaking to this, College Dropout is his first album, right? And he's talking about things that are very vulnerable, talking about being self-conscious and being addicted to consumerism, and it's political. And I think vulnerable is the word that I would really use, which not only takes courage for any artist or any person to display, but I think especially a black man who's supposed to be this ideal of like macho toughness at a time when that hadn't been done. And you really have to admire him in the documentary for, even though he's in some ways like hitting his head against a wall because he doesn't fit into the genre as it currently exists, he doesn't bend. Like, he sticks with that vision.
Right.
And he does whatever he can and eventually breaks through. And then, of course, it becomes this massive star. And then the other thing that really came through to me is there are these couple of moments when people who, like his mother or Pharrell, sort of see in him like both the incredible promise and also the perils of some of the you have to stay true to what you are right now and don't let it get to your head. Don't let it get to your head. And you have to have swagger and ego, but you can float. I think his mom said something like, you can float while staying on the ground. And it seemed like a little bit of a preview of ultimately what was to come for him. And knowing that the trajectory, at least somewhat from there to where we are now, it is sad in a cultural figure like that who has meant so much, I think, to so many people and who felt themselves represented with his music in a way that they really never had before. It does strike me as a loss. Yeah. So the thing that I got from as we've seen in the documentary so far is that he has the qualities of stick-to-itiveness and persistence. I mean, he just keeps showing up. He keeps showing up. Yeah. He gets knocked down on the ground. He gets told no. He gets put off by Rockefeller for releasing his record a whole bunch of times. And basically made to look ridiculous, right? And they're just like, just stay in the background and do the beats for us. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to do the music the way I want to do the music. He funded The Wire, the music video, with his buddy just recording it. They did it on their own. They went to MTV after hours and edited it on the equipment. They weren't getting any help. They weren't getting any funding on that particular front. He was just a producer, and they wanted to keep him in that box. And so that stick-to-itiveness and persistence is something I highly respect
and I relate to it because I was talking to myself for the first year or two of my show. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Kanye, but when you feel like there are no allies, there is no help, and you're on your own, but there is no other option to you. You're like, I'm just going to keep showing up. I'm just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then eventually somebody's going to notice and people are going to recognize. And then eventually if you build it, they will come. That was the mindset.
Yeah.
And that were positive characteristics of his that were very admirable. Now I'll say the stuff that's controversial. So I was never really a big Kanye stan. I liked some of his music early on. I loved The Wire. I think that's a great song. I love Slow Jams. I think that's a great song. But I was never a Kanye stan. It never spoke to me in the same way it spoke to other people. And at a certain point, I started getting actively really frustrated and annoyed with the people who insist that no matter what Kanye does, he's just a genius. Let me explain something to you guys. What you are currently witnessing with Kanye West is mental illness. Like, serious mental illness. And I'm not trying to say this as like a burn or an own or whatever. I'm saying it out of like genuine concern for the guy, seeing what's going on. He absolutely has probably severe bipolar disorder, something along those lines. And the Kanye stans who will defend him no matter what he does. I mean, when he ran for president and got like 3 votes, and he was like crying and talking on stage about how he wanted to abort his own daughter and how he was an asshole for wanting to do that. And of course, Kim was pissed off when he did that.
Yeah, because
like, what are you doing?
Not disclosing his own secrets, but disclosing her most private moments.
Then you get what did he say when he was talking to TMZ? Like slavery was a choice or something. It was like a state of mind. He said some shit like that.
Yeah.
He went full pro-Trump and was rambling like a madman in the Oval Office for like an hour. And the circus around him and the media around him, I mean, they get entertainment value out of it. But this is a guy who has issues. And, maybe this is controversial too. I don't know. I'll say it anyway. But I remember when Snoop Dogg was asked, what the hell do you think is wrong with Kanye? And he was like, look, he has no strong black women in his life to keep his ass in line. And to say, you better get your shit together. And it's manifesting. I mean, he's all over the place. And it looks to me like severe mental illness. If you're going to record a music video of you beheading,
and here's
kidnapping,
the thing, and that's where you ask, like, who's enabling this? Like, who is like, yeah, this is who is failing to have an intervention and say, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this.
This is what I'm trying to say. I think like the media that sort of aids and abets this because they like the circus, the Kanye stans who, no matter what he does, they're like, you're a genius. At some point, like, no, at some point, you're just having a deranged meltdown and you need help. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've had conversations with very intelligent people when Kanye was clearly in the middle of a manic episode. They're like, he's just a genius.
Here's the other question that I have that I wonder what you think about. First of all, I think there's a lot to be said about the people who are around him, enabling him, who, are trying to be close to a star. They just want to be yes men and women. They want to, they're media figures who want to sort of benefit from whatever circus he's creating. So very clear how we should feel about those people. What agency does he have in this situation, given that he does seem to be suffering from some form of mental illness?
So that's actually a very difficult question to answer because, I mean, that's the whole thing about mental illness, right? If it's mental illness, then it almost takes away your agency because you're purely acting off of like impulse and there's not much control over what you're doing. And he's acting like a guy who doesn't have control. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously the video is premeditated. He thought about it and this is what I'm going to do or whatever. But to go down that path and actually execute that you're clearly not in too much control here. But look, his biggest failing, and this you can put on him, and this happens with a lot of people who are severely mentally ill. My grandmother was what they used to call manic depressive, what they now call bipolar. And so I saw some of this stuff firsthand, but not much because I was young at the time. But my sister probably saw more. My mom saw a lot of it. My dad, of course, as well. A lot of times they don't want to take their medicine. And there's medicine that absolutely helps and stops these extreme symptoms and these manic episodes and this acting totally irrationally and impulsively. But they don't want to take their medicine. And the reason they don't want to take their medicine is because they feel like it's dulling my existence and taking away the thing that makes me a genius, that makes me special, that makes me unique, that makes me important. And the fact of the matter is, that's not true. It's taking away the mania. It's taking away the mental illness. And there are other, side effects that oftentimes come along with whatever it is, antipsychotic drugs or anti-anxiety drugs or a mix of the two or other things. And it could be, you can't stop eating and you gain weight. And I think that's one thing Kanye even cited as like, this is why I didn't want to take it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. He blew up at one point. I think he commented on like, I didn't want to take it. And
well, Freddie DeBoer talked to us about
that as well.
Yeah.
But look, Freddie said it too. He's like, you gotta fucking shut up and take it. You have to do it. Because it's not just about you. Now this is about, him and Kim, they have a kid.
Right.
They have a kid. And, she's with Pete now and he's threatening Pete. Like, this is shit. If his name wasn't Kanye West and he was some random dude, they would probably be like, the cops would be knocking on his door like, what the fuck are you doing?
That is a good point.
Yeah.
So
I'm just...
Well, and it's all of that is exacerbated by having so many people around you and in society who are telling you, who are reinforcing that, yes, these behaviors are the acts of a genius and, don't let them shut you down.
Ironically, those are the people I'm most mad at. I'm actually less mad at Kanye because I do think that when you're in a manic state and when you're mentally ill, you really can't control your actions very much.
What
I
do you
can
think
control it enough to take a fucking pill, right? But you can't control it to all the other things that you do. So I'm mad at the people who embolden Kanye.
Yeah, and enable. What do you think about the argument that, well, we can't feel too bad for Kim because she was just using him for like fame and her own reasons?
Total bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Like, it's natural to want to, date somebody and be around somebody and be intimate with somebody who you view at like there's not a massive power differential where one person is super famous and the other one's not. Like, you can relate to somebody if they're more on the same plane as you in that respect. So, she dated Ray J in the past. He was also a fucking psycho, by the way.
Was he?
Oh, he released a music video afterwards titled "I Hit It First." And where he would sing about like, yeah, and in the music video, there's a girl who looks exactly like Kim. I mean, it was,
fucking
so she's picked some fucking winners. At some point, Pete Davidson is going to do some weird, look at him. He's already weird as fuck, but he's probably going to get even weirder.
He seems a lot less weird than Kanye. He seems a lot more even.
You could pick a random dude off the street and they'd be way more point than Kanye.
Well, and even if you hate Kim, like Pete certainly doesn't deserve any of this.
Of course, but who, like at this late date, who even hates Kim? Kim was directly involved in getting Alice Johnson out of prison. Like Alice Johnson was the poor woman, sweet, like grandmotherly woman.
Interviewed her, and she was one of the most beautiful people I've ever met.
And she was locked up for so long, for years and years and years, for some stupid drug thing. She had no idea what was even going on, what it was even about.
Yeah, I think she I wish I could remember the details. It was like she placed a phone call. I mean, it was something like so incredibly trivial, and she gets locked up for life.
Yeah, I mean, disliking Kim at this, like I feel like that's so 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, Like now it's just like she's a part of the cultural lexicon or whatever.
Yeah.
And you either feel neutral and agnostic towards her or you like her.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, revealing the text messages. And
that's...
Even the creepy love bombing of like sending the truck full of roses and the trying to buy the house next to her and all that
classic
stuff.
manipulative, narcissistic moves there.
Yeah.
That's what that is. If you... And this is why I say it's definitely mental illness. If you're fundamentally incapable of, noticing the signs. So there were obviously like 849 signs to Kanye, like, I don't like this, before he sent a truck with a bed full of roses to her. So that's more, it's not just like, he's not making the right decisions. It's like he's incapable of making the right decisions because he's in a manic episode. And so he needs the medicine. He needs a support system around him that's going to make sure he takes the medicine. And then, by the way, I got news for you. My guess is, based off how Kanye has been acting when he's not on his medicine, if he were to be back on the medicine, he would start dropping bangers again. He would start dropping songs like The Wire again, where everybody would be like, I like this a lot.
Yeah.
But he's not on the meds. And what was the song that he released? He just said the name of his mother over and over and over and over and over. It was like...
Well, that's the other thing that people say is he sort of spiraled after she passed.
The Snoop Dogg point. He doesn't have a strong black woman in his life to keep him in line. I mean, that's... And she is a beautiful person. Based on the documentary, oh my God. In the
documentary, not only is she a beautiful person, you see the closeness of that relationship. You see how much she's able to kind of keep him together and how much he looks to her for that kind of guidance. So that does make sense to me.
She is the most motherly mother. She's such a beautiful person.
So encouraging.
You just feel safe and comfy when she's in the room. Like, this is such a sweet person who's just looking out for everybody's best interest.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean, you lose a force like that. I mean, obviously she was the biggest forced for him. He was so close with her that, he sort of spiraled out of control a little bit.
Became unmoored.
Yeah. And so now, I feel bad for him. He's isolated. He's lonely, but you're going through a manic episode and you have psychological illness and you really need help, and he should take medicine. And, if he were to be on medicine and stay on it for an extended period of time, he would look at the things that he's doing now in retrospect and be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What have I done for the world to see this total meltdown?
And for the people that I supposedly care the most about and the pain that I've put them through.
So for the love of God, I don't want to hear any of the enablers out there, because you guys are the worst of the worst. They really are. The people who still insist, no, this is all genius, this is all beautiful, or this is all fun trolling.
Yeah.
It's not. No, when you're decapitating somebody and burying them and
way over
threatening,
the line at
and
that point.
come on, man. It's obvious. It goes without saying.